Welcome to another episode of the Perry Thomas Show. I'm your host and voice of Fighting Tiger football, Colin Sheffield. Alongside me, head coach Perry Thomas. Coach Thomas, it was another hard-fought loss here against another top-ranked opponent in the Mid-South Conference.
Yeah, daggone it, we got to get one of these wins. You know, I thought our guys came out and played better than we had the last 2 weeks. I thought the previous 2 weeks after the Lindsay game and so forth, we kind of had a little lull in there. You know, the game, the Faulkner game, we wasn't ready to play. And then against Cumberland, I thought we was ready to play, but they jumped on us and took advantage of our mistakes, and it took us a while to play into the game. But I thought last week we came out and played. You know, they jumped up on us 21-0, but you kind of expect that. They're the 6th ranked team in the country, so you know they're going to come out and try to put you away early because their coach is telling them we don't want a team to get some confidence against us. So, but I was very happy that our guys stood in there and kept throwing punches and fought back to get back in it. Played hard, but, you know, we got to correct some things so we can get these wins.
So we'll give a look into some of the sights of the game. Here we have our highlights. It was a great game. Gillis starting at quarterback for his first time this season, stepping in for Meglis. Little dump over pass, finding Shepperson, and then diving into the end zone. What a reach. That was our CPR, cell phone repair shop, call of the game. And then just getting it done in the pocket was Gillis. Neely knocked through the field goal right there at the half. You know, gives you some points going into the locker room.
Well, you know, you look at, I thought Jagger played a really good game for his first start. He, he came in, Jagger's a little older, even though he's a freshman. He was a COVID kid, so he, came in actually mid-year last year, which was smart because it gave him a spring of off-season lifting and also spring practice. So he's a little bit ahead of your typical freshman. But I thought he came in and played well for a freshman, made some mistakes like you're always going to have, but he stood in, one of his strengths is staying in that pocket. And because he'll stay in that pocket, he was able to make some things happen. Luke Shepperson had a tremendous game. Luke's just got a steady hands, and he's a big old strong kid that can run. He's a tight end body that runs like a receiver. So I thought he stepped up and played a good game. Also, I thought our guys offensively, once we got going, we was able to move the ball. We was able to mix in a few little runs here and there, our little tailback screen in the middle, and then throw the ball downfield a little bit. And when we can mix it up is when we're at our best. When we just have to throw or just have to run, then it makes us a little, not very good. We become too much one-dimensional. Defensively settled as we went. Defensively settled down as the game went on. Came up with some huge stops there in that not only in the first half, but especially in the second half. I think second half they scored 9 points, one of them late in the game. So, defensively really stood up in that second half and got some stops. Even after our onside kick that obviously was a little short, we gave them a short field, but defense made a big stop and was able to, capitalize and went on and eventually scored and made it a little battle. But I think we got it within 8 at one point. And then from there, we just couldn't get it done.
We'll take a look at the box score as well. Some of the big players in that ball game, you mentioned a couple of them. The Tigers lost 39-31. It was an ending touchdown there right at the end of the clock to make it an 8-point game. But Gillis, 29 for 51, 281 yards, 4 touchdowns. We talked about some of those mistakes, the 3 interceptions. Just a young quarterback out there. There's growing pains to come with it. Luke Shepperson was our Kentucky Farm Bureau player of the game, 11 catches for 88 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then D'Angelo Davenport, 12 tackles. Davenport and Shepperson both NCCAA players of the week in their respective sides of the ball.
Right.
And Noah Gray, I think, another huge component in it. He came up with a few big sacks and tackles for loss in those times where, the offense was starting to stagnate. They were starting to get into trouble. And we talked about the defense stepping up and making those plays that they needed to make.
Yeah, and I thought Noah had a tremendous game. I actually was surprised that he didn't get some honors around the nation because he had a tremendous game. But DJ and Luke had tremendous games, both well deserving of their respective honors. And defensively we did. We stood up early in the game. We got hit with the slant again. and the quarterback scramble, which is bothering me. I'm an old defensive guy, so those things bother me. But as the game went on, our guys settled in and started making plays on those, and it actually became tough for Bethel to score. And that's what you want. So, like when we do something like our onside kick or we take some chances from times, people got to remember, I'm a defensive coach. I mean, I'm not the DC anymore, but my mind is still as a defensive guy. So we're going to put our defense in position where you got to go make some plays. We're going to put the pressure on you. And I think Coach Burnett and those guys have responded well. I thought our guys stood up the other day and did a good job against a very good football team. One of the biggest and strongest teams you're going to face. And athletically, very experienced. And I thought our guys stood in there. And, if you go back and can correct a couple of mistakes, then, you get a huge upset.
I think with the defense, too, just a couple of those things that may have been bigger is you saw a lot of the time the safety or the corner running off free, and they had that shot at the quarterback, and it just missed coming in a little too hot, and he was able to step up and evade it, and then you saw him get loose. So just a couple of those things. You got the hats to the ball, just the tackle just kind of wasn't there.
Yeah, and that goes to youth a little bit. Those guys were coming off of corner pressure and outside linebacker pressure and young guys and just not understanding you need to break down, get under control, and just fit up and make a good tackle. Doesn't have to be a great hit or anything, just make the tackle. And we missed him 3 or 4 times in the backfield that could have been huge sacks for us.
And this team their offense is 3rd in the nation, or they were at least, in red zone scores coming in, and red zone touchdowns was even better. They were 25 for 30 in red zone scores, and this was a team that several times they were within short field position, and you all were able to either come up with the interception or push them back, and you held them. I think there was a missed field goal. There's a couple times that they were only scoring field goals. So, I mean, those are huge wins against such a powerful offense in the number 6 ranked team.
No doubt, and that's what you want to do, and the goal is to come in and win in that short range, And I thought offensively, I think we were 5 of 5 in the red zone. And typically, when you're 5 of 5 in the red zone and you're holding the other team to field goals or not scoring, typically you win the game. Unfortunately, we had given up some big points early that it put us out of position to win the game. But at the same time, these guys grind. Now, what we have to do, though, is we have to take that mentality of when we play the 3rd-ranked team in the country, the 6th-ranked team in the country, to the teams that aren't ranked, and make sure that we show up with the same mentality against those teams to give ourselves a chance to win these other games.
I think it's huge. I mean, you've been right there in these ball games with these top-ranked teams, number 3 and number 6, pushing them to the brink. And you come out on the other side just barely short. And I know that's a little deflating at times, but you have to think to yourself, now we can go out there, we can play with the Faulkners of the world, we can go play with the Pikevilles coming up.
Yeah, and that's the mentality you have to take and the mindset. And unfortunately, though, you have to have the leadership that instills that as the week goes on when you go into the game. And we're still fighting to get that leadership at that next level, to understand that U-Pike is the same as Bethel and the same as Lindsey Wilson, and we got to take the same approach. I think we're getting there with that, but that gets us to those other wins. And I think we need to make sure we have that mindset this week when we play against a U-Pike team that's very good. So we need to have that same mindset. And we also have to start the games better. We've talked about that. We have to start the games better. You go back to Lindsey and we score a touchdown early, and then we give them a kickoff return right afterwards. We got to start the game in a more dominant position. The other day we were down 21-0. And I'm not sure it was the first quarter or the beginning of the second quarter. We're down 21-0 now. We fight back, we make it a battle, and we do a good job of doing it. But if we're not down 21-0, maybe the fallout's a little different. So we have to start games better.
We'll let you take a break. When we come back, we'll sit down with the defensive line coach, Forrest Garner, here on the Perry Thomas Show.
you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason. Thank you.
A place to make my own, a place that I call home, this place that I call home.
Welcome back to the Perry Thomas Show. With me, I had the defensive line coach, Forrest Garner. Forrest Garner, you came in from the Patriots,
Yeah.
and you got hired in for spring football.
Yeah.
You were offensive line and tight ends coach. You got put into a little bit of a tough situation, but you come out on the other side here, and now you moved into a whole new role,
Right.
and you switched to the other side of the ball, defensive line. So what has that transition been like for you?
It's actually been really fun. Myself, Coach Burnett took over as defensive coordinator, and then getting to work with Coach Atwood and Coach Gribbins. It's been a really cool, transition and almost change of pace of everything. I really enjoyed the guys that I have, and they make it fun to coach. So it's been a really, really, don't want to say smooth, but it's been a fun transition. I really like what I do.
So the offensive line has come a long way since back in 2020, and now the defensive line is playing even better. You're getting a lot of hats to the quarterback. It's been honestly really fun to watch. The defense has been a huge part of this Campbellsville team, the way it has been in years past. But this year, I feel like more than any other, it has just been on fire.
Right, and that goes back to how we wanted to establish our brand of football. Coach Burnett said it when he did his interview, and he's, that's been something that we preach every day, meetings, practice, is we want to establish our brand of football, and that's flying to the ball, 11 hats to the ball, and being the most physical team on the field. And I think our guys have bought into that. On Saturday, kind of gave up a little easy 21 right there pretty quickly, and a lot of it was personnel issues and trying to get guys matched up on, the right people. And once we figured that out and fixed it, I think they really settled down and got back to who we are as a team. And, I've been really proud of them.
I think the defensive line played super well in that game for the most part. Just a little struggle getting, once they got into the backfield, being able to bring them down, but you still had a great game from people like Noah Gray. You got a couple of big sacks when you needed to, and several tackles for loss when it came time. And they held strong when the offense had stagnated, and they were able to really keep you all into that ball game.
Yeah, and Noah is a phenomenal player. He's a phenomenal kid. 4.0 student, very smart. He was another one of the COVID kids. I think we have another one, Jagger. He was a COVID kid as well. So he's a little older, and he doesn't look like he's 18 or 19 years old. He looks like he's 30. He's a giant man. He's done a really good job, just doing exactly what we asked him to do. And, he did come up huge with, some sacks, a lot of tackles for a loss, and he was in the backfield a lot. He's got just a tremendous motor, and, I think that, this is just the kind of the start of, just a glimpse of how good he can be, as the years go on. And, we've got some other really, really good ones, Grover Russell, interior guy, and then Cale Hagan, the other end, when we play with our three-man front. And then, we've also got Alan Parrish, Tyler Coleman, who's injured right now. He's a phenomenal player. Jansen Hayden got some playing time, and he's a freshman. Just really getting those guys rolling has been really fun. And then, probably the guy that started at end, all the way until almost our first game, Dimitri Hernandez. He's been out for the season thus far. Transfer from Fullerton College in California. So those guys being able to step up into that spot and has been really good, really nice.
Has there been anything that you've taken from coaching the offensive line over to the defensive line?
Of course. So just kind of understanding what offenses want to do and blocking schemes and how an offensive line is going to have to attack the leverage of a certain defender and kind of how everything works from that standpoint. I've been able to really give Coach Burnett a lot of insight on that, and Coach Atwood, he was a receivers coach. So we kind of attack everything from, okay, how would the offense try to attack us, and what would they try to expose? And that's kind of how we game plan for everybody.
I'd have to imagine that it'd be kind of easy looking down and seeing, okay, I know that this is what they're running,
Right.
so this is how we could attack that, especially when you're in the film room.
Oh yeah. And I worked with Bethel's offensive coordinator Jay Bright at Cumberland's for almost 3 years, and it was the same style of offense. A lot of the core things that he wanted to do in the run game were exactly the same that we did at Cumberland's, and formations were the same. He had some wrinkles in there that I hadn't seen, but for the most part it was all the same. So I kind of knew what he wanted to do, and I knew that if we could take away his main 2 or 3 plays, that we would have a good shot at really keeping him out of the end zone. And they took some shots on us and got up early, but as we settled down, their run game wasn't as effective. They would still bust off some big ones, but towards the end of the game, I don't think they scored a touchdown in the second half, which was really, really cool. And even getting down on the goal line and keeping them out of the end zone and making them kick a field goal was huge. And when you've got 7 freshmen playing on defense, that's huge for them.
So what are the things that you prepare for moving into this week against the Pikeville Bears?
It's going to be a lot of the same stuff. We've got to establish our pass rush. I think that we do have plenty of sacks, but I don't think that we have gotten the pressure that we needed to on the quarterback, and a lot of that is just staying active and aggressively attacking the offensive line, working hands, things like that, and really establishing our pass rush, because we're going to see the pass a little bit more. Coach Phipps at UPike, he likes the air raid stuff. I think he pulls a lot of his stuff from how Art Browse did things at Baylor. And the really wide receiver splits almost to the sideline, and up-tempo offense, and I think that they're going to throw the ball around a lot. So we need to put pressure on the quarterback. We need to get hits on the quarterback, and then also stopping their running game. They've got a really, really solid running back in number 26. Keeping him contained and not letting him get loose is going to be huge. And they use him a lot in the passing game as well, so we got to cover him too. So.
What are some of the keys to maybe stopping that up-tempo offense and slowing them down? Is there any way that you can force them to maybe play your style of game?
Yeah, keeping them behind the chains. Making them, whether they're unsuccessful on first down or they're not getting many yards on second down, keeping them behind the chains. It's the big plays, 5+ yards that they're going to try to do, run their up-tempo stuff and try to keep you on your heels and keep you in the same defense. Whenever I was on offense, that's what I loved about the tempo. Defense can't sub, they can't change their defense. They're not going to blitz you as much because they don't have time to call it. So it's a very interesting offense to run if you're on the offensive side. But on the defensive side, you just got to keep them behind the chains, make sure that you force the 3rd and long, and then get off the field. So that's really what we're doing this week.
Well, thank you for stopping by, Coach Garner, and good luck on
Appreciate it.
Saturday. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we'll sit down with head coach Perry Thomas and talk about the upcoming matchup against the Pikeville Bears here on the Perry Thomas Show.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Welcome back, and we welcome back Coach Thomas to the chair. Coach Thomas, you're taking on a Pikeville team that's 3-3. At one point, they were receiving votes, but they've had a very tough schedule. They played Bluefield College, and they've played a lot of top-ranked opponents, just as your Tigers team has. What can we expect looking forward this week from this Pikeville team?
Well, offensively, they're going to run a lot of zone concepts with the running game. Have a couple of really good running backs, a couple of better backs we've seen in a while. They're slithery backs, they have the ability to find a little crease. And when you're playing zone teams, the whole line's just all blocking one way, and you give him the ball to the back, and he may go the way the whole line's stretching, or he may cut back. And their backs are really good at that. So, we have to control that running game in the box. Big quarterbacks, they'll play 3 of them actually, but 2 huge quarterbacks, see the field really well, and some really good receivers. So offensively, they're going to run a little bit of air raid type of offense. It's kind of the leech type of offense at Mississippi State, and then they're going to run that zone with it. And then defensively, 3-4 most of the time, 3-4 alignment. Play some cover 2, some man, and roll to some 3. And they're just going to try to get after you in that box. They'll bring one of their outside linebackers some. Very good football team. Once again, they're in this league, and this league is just demanding. So, you put them in another league, and maybe they're sitting here instead of 3-3, maybe they're 4-2 or 5-1. Very good football team, lost to good people. Very confident team. You can tell how they play that they're very confident. They won the other day against University of Cumberland in the last 10, 11 seconds of the game, actually, to win the game. So very, very good football team with some older kids, some transfers and so forth. So we got our work cut out for us.
You talked about some of the league play, and Pikeville has had some of the same opponents that we have automatically. So they won a pretty good game against Cumberland, which is a team that we struggled with. But then they also lost a lot worse to a Bethel team who has gotten better since then, and we played a lot closer. Do those comparisons give you anything to look at, or do you just disregard that?
Yeah, you have to disregard it. A lot of times it's about matchups, and it's like anything else. It's about matchups, and one team may match up a little better with another team. Sometimes injuries will play a factor in that. So, you just kind of disregard that, and you just kind of look at the film and go from there.
So this Tigers team is going to come out. Gillis will come out as a starter. Does any of these, or more than likely, I guess, should there be anything that we can look for in those setups that you mentioned that could play to the Tigers' advantage?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like we got some things we can take advantage of. We feel like they have some open windows in the passing game. We feel like in that 3-4 look that you should be able to run the ball from tackle to tackle some. It's just a matter of execution. And also, you look at Bethel, we wanted to run some tackle to tackle, but their front's still a little stronger than ours. We're playing those sophomores up there. Plus, we've been a little shorthanded on the offensive line last couple of weeks. So it was still a little tougher to do that. But, we're going to go out and try to establish the run game against these guys and also throw the ball into some open windows. You're going to see the same similar stuff. Things will be changed. Jagger will run the ball a little bit more than Josh did, some of that type of stuff. But you'll see the same similar stuff going on.
So the Pikeville Bears are coming in off of a win against Cumberland's, a little bit of a momentum boost, and the Tigers are still on a little bit of a slide here. How much importance is there going forward into the rest of our schedule in picking up a win here, because we have pretty tough opponents coming up next in Georgetown and so and so?
Well, I think it's important that we win out, and that's what we're focused on, is one game at a time, but let's focus on winning this game, but let's also focus on winning these next 3. We know we're capable of it. We know we're also capable of getting blasted. Teams have beaten us bad, teams have beaten us close, and we won some. But we know that we have the opportunity. We just got to go out and put 60 minutes together against these good teams and get a win. We're very close to being a very good team. We're very close to being a very good team. But, I can't play anymore. My staff can't play. These guys got to go out there and get it done. And they got to do it for 60 minutes. And we got to overcome injuries. Everybody's got injuries. You got to go out there and get it done. So I think it's important we get on that bus Saturday and we go to the University of Pikeville and we get a victory. I think we get that victory, then that sets us up in a little better position to get one next week. And that's win there puts us in a little bit better position to finish the season with one. Maybe you can finish this thing 5-5, and that's great improvement over what we've been going through. And I think even with our record now, when people watch us play, they can see how far the program's come since last year and the improvement in where we're going.
I thought with the exception of maybe right off the start of the game, I thought the secondary played a lot better. They were making the adjustments as you went on, and Antoine Fant coming up with some big with a big interception in return, putting the Tigers close again to score. And that secondary really just putting your team in a good position against good quarterbacks and wide receivers, especially coming up against an air raid team like Pikeville.
Yeah, those young guys got to play well back there. And we started off a little slow, making the same mistakes that we've seen the last few weeks, but then they corrected them as the game went on. And sometimes it wasn't because of pressure. We got some pressure, but sometimes they just had to cover. And I thought that Coach Burnett and those guys had a great plan back there for the game the other day. And they're going to have to step up this week. They're going to have to step up and make plays. They're going to have to cover, some big-time receivers and some quarterbacks that can sit back there and pick you apart. And I'm excited about the game. I'm excited about our opportunities to go to Pikeville and get a win.
Now, I'll ask about the offensive line because it's tough for a secondary to cover a wide receiver for a long amount of time when you're not able to get the pressure into the backfield. Is that offensive line giving their quarterback plenty of time to make that read?
Well, against some people, yes. And some people, no. They have the ability to up front. They also run the ball well, so that helps a lot also. But we have to get some pressure, and I haven't thought we've gotten a lot of pressure lately. Teams have picked us up a little bit. The other day we got a couple of sacks, but we got to get after the quarterback. And, we got to make that O-line work. We got to get them off and the big thing for me is get a quarterback off his spot. So when he gets that ball, he can't go on rhythm. You got to disrupt his rhythm. You don't have to have sacks. You don't even have to hit him all the time. He just has to be out of his rhythm to make things work, and that helps the coverage. So we got to get after him, and their O-line has been adequate with that. They've done a good job against certain people. Now, other people have gotten after him pretty good.
This will be your longest road trip of the season. Are there any difficulties to that? About a 4-hour road trip, any difficulties coming in?
Well, typically, for anything over 3 hours, we'll spend the night. This game's at 3 o'clock, so we feel like that we could sleep in our own beds and just travel a little earlier in the day, and we'll handle it well. We handle travel pretty good. We'll get them off the bus when we get there and work out some of the kinks and get them loose and so forth and get them ready to play. So we'll get there plenty of time to do that. But that is a maturity type of thing. Our guys, when you travel on the road and you got a long trip, you have to show some maturity. And certainly we didn't get off the bus well at Cumberland University. So we need to respond this week and make sure that all that's covered and get ready to go.
Well, thank you, Coach Thomas. I'd like to thank Coach Thomas and Coach Forrest Gardner, the defensive line coach, for sitting down with us today. That matchup was scheduled for 1:30. If it's still on the website as 1:30, it's been actually pushed back due to some of their Hall of Fame weekend stuff going on. So that game on Saturday will be 3 o'clock on the road against the University of Pikeville. You can join us on 88.7 The Tiger. For coverage of that ball game will be myself and Brett Sal on the road giving you coverage. Thank you for joining in to the Perry Thomas Show here on the CU Sports Network.